50 isms in 8 minutes. And which ism do you identify with most? Some people think religion is just a building. It's the building that your parents made you go to when you were little against your will. But religion at its core is simply how you orient yourself in the universe. And because you're a human who has already made it onto YouTube, you're already making decisions. You already see the world in a certain way, which means you already operate under at least a few of these isms or ways to see reality. If you're new here, I'm Britt Hartley. I have a master's degree in theology and I've been studying religion for the past 20 years. So which one describes you? And as I go, write yours in the comments because I'm curious. So here we go. Number 1, deism, belief in a creator God that isn't concerned with us. Many of the founding fathers, like Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, for example, were deists. Theism, belief in a creator God that actually interacts with humanity, answers prayers, and most importantly, cares about what you do naked. Most notably, these are going to be our 3 Abrahamic religions: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Atheism is not convinced of the belief in a theistic God. It is not faith that there is no God or a claim that there is no God. We'll get to that later. It is simply you've looked at the God of theism and you're not convinced. Agnosticism is a separate question, one where you have to discuss whether or not we have enough information to answer the question of whether or not there is a God. So agnostics are not theists, so by definition they are atheists, but it's answering a different question, a question of knowledge or epistemology versus belief. Polytheism, why have one God when you can have many? Pantheism, God is identical with the universe. Panentheism, God includes the universe but also transcendent, so God is in everything but also is more than the universe itself. Pandeism, which is a mix of pantheism and deism. Pandeists believe that the universe is God, but God created it and then became it, so now there's no kind of conscious intervention. Henotheism is the belief in one primary God while acknowledging the existence of other gods. It's like being in a committed relationship but still knowing that there are other people out there. Technically, Mormons are henotheists. Mesotheism, there is a God but he sucks and I hate God. Antitheism, the theistic God is so vile that even if he were real, I wouldn't worship him. Christopher Hitchens is probably our most visible anti-theist. Animism, belief that everything has a spirit or a soul. Nihilism, the belief that there is no inherent meaning in the universe. There's optimistic nihilism, which is that's great news because then I can create my own meaning. And then there's pessimistic nihilism, there is no meaning in the universe and life sucks. By the way, if you're here and you want to move into optimistic nihilism, that is my specialty and I do a lot of content and coaching in that space. Absurdism, the belief that humans exist in a meaningless universe, but absurdly, humans desire meaning anyway. It's like creating meaning in a universe that doesn't care, as kind of an FU to the universe. Existentialism, life has no inherent meaning, so it's your responsibility to create your own. This one has a little bit more responsibility. Solipsism, the idea that the only thing that you can be sure of exists in your own mind. Everything else could be figments of your imagination or simulation. Idealism, the view that reality is fundamentally mental or spiritual, and the physical world is just some kind of projection and not as real as the spiritual world. Materialism, the belief that only physical matter exists and consciousness arises from material processes with no supernatural needed. Dualism, the idea that reality consists of 2 different substances, mind and matter. It's the body versus soul debate, but with philosophical sounding words. Non-dualism, that there is no distinction between subject and object or between the physical and spiritual. Everything is part of the same underlying reality. Determinism, everything is preordained by cause and effect. Hard determinism says free will doesn't exist because everything is determined. Soft determinism says free will does exist even in a determined world as long as we act without coercion. This is where we get compatibilism. Fatalism, the belief that everything is predetermined and inevitable. You literally can't escape your fate. Humanism, focusing on human values, reason, and ethics rather than divine intervention. Libertarianism, that we have genuine freedom to make our own choices. Utilitarianism, the philosophy that actions are right if they promote the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people.
Female body is a work of art. The male body is utilitarian. It's for getting around. It's like a Jeep.
Stoicism, embrace hardship and maintain a stiff upper lip in the face of adversity. This one is far more appealing to men than women. There are almost no women in Stoicism. Stay tuned for why. That's coming in the next video. Epicureanism, seeking modest pleasures and avoiding pain. That doesn't mean binging on pleasure to the point that it makes you sick. It's really just the balanced pursuit of pleasure because pleasure is a high core value. Hedonism is a philosophy that pleasure is not just a core value, but the highest good. So hedonists are basically the original treat yourself crowd.
Clothes.
Treat yourself.
Fragrances.
Treat yourself.
Massages.
Treat yourself.
Mimosas.
Treat yourself.
Fine leather goods.
Treat yourself.
Empiricism, the theory that knowledge comes from sensory experience. If you didn't see, hear, or touch it, it didn't happen. It's very sensory oriented. Rationalism is the belief that reason, not experience, is a more trustable source of knowledge. Basically, you don't need to touch the fire to know that it burns because I've done the math. Skepticism, there are so many truth claims, and humans are more wrong than they are right. Therefore, doubt everything until proven otherwise. Cynicism was originally a philosophy that emphasized simple living, but now it's more about a distrust of others' motives and others' claims. Pragmatism, if it works, it's good. Taoism is a Chinese philosophy and spiritual tradition that emphasizes living in harmony with the Tao. The simplest way to say that is it's learning how to just go with the flow. It's literally the practice of going with the flow. Buddhism, thousands of years of practice on how to suffer less. Quietism, a form of Christian mysticism emphasizing inner stillness and passivity, trusting that God will work through you without personal effort. And it's a kind of spiritual minimalism, to just let go and let God do the work. Asceticism, kind of the opposite of hedonism, is a lifestyle characterized by abstinence of pleasure for spiritual reasons, that through self-denial you can achieve higher spiritual insight. Basically, they're on a permanent cleanse. Sufism, this is the mystical branch of Islam focusing on the inner world. Sufis often practice meditation and dance like the whirling dervish, and poetry as pathways to the divine. I've had a Sufi mystic teacher and mentor for almost 20 years now. It's a very beautiful practice. Shintoism, the indigenous spirituality of Japan, focusing on the worship of kami, or spirits or deities, and reverence for nature. It doesn't really stress doctrine, but focuses on rituals that connect you with these kind of divine forces in nature. Transcendentalism, this is a philosophical movement that emerged in the 19th century, emphasizing the inherent goodness of people and nature, that we could connect to God or the divine through nature and inner intuition. Think Walden Pond. Manichaeism, this is an ancient dualistic religion that taught a cosmic struggle between good and evil. So it's the original light side versus dark side battle. Jainism, an ancient Indian religion that teaches nonviolence and respect for all living beings. This would be the most peaceful religion, I would say. Jains take non-harming to the extreme, even sweeping the ground in front of them to avoid stepping on insects. Monism, the belief that everything is made up of one fundamental substance or reality, whether that's mind or matter, whatever it is, there's some cosmic soup that everything is made out of. Realism, the belief that the physical world exists independently of our perception of it. So even if you're not looking at that tree, it's still probably there and still probably exists. This concept got some attention recently because the Nobel Prize winning physics idea in 2022 was that the universe was not locally real. Phenomenalism, the idea that we can only know objects as they appear to us through our senses, not as they are in themselves. And last one, just for fun, Rastafarianism, reggae, ganja for sacrament, peace, social justice, not to be confused with Pastafarianism, which is a lighthearted religion that worships the flying spaghetti monster for those who have satire as a core value. Now, you cannot be all of these because they contradict each other, but you can also not be none of these. By being a human and getting up in the morning, you have to choose between different values and different ways of seeing the world. And each lens of reality has something, has a point, has an argument to put on the table. Sometimes I like to even try one on for size. Every year for Lent, I try a different ism. The first year that I tried this, I did theism for Lent because I'm an atheist. And my friend, who is a theist, did atheism for Lent. And we shared with each other at the end of the experience how that felt. So I'll do a video on that coming soon. And then after that, I liked the experience so much that each year for Lent, I try a new ism to see how it changes how I see and operate in the world. So the question for you is, what ism do you gravitate towards? And if there's some that you've always wanted to explore, or you want to get to know your own core values more, I recommend my course on spiritual reconstruction, where I give you all the tools and options for navigating your own path of life without telling you what that needs to be. If you're interested, the link for that is in the description if you want to do a deeper dive. But if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing for more free content. My next video will be on Stoicism and why there are no women in Stoicism.